Hey, it's Chris Knight, founder of Self-Intelligence. Welcome to another episode of the Self-Intelligence podcast, where everyday people just like you can get free expert guidance and support to resolve any personal problem or drama you're experiencing. If you have addictions in your life, big or small, you just can't kick, you want to explore this entire episode, we're going to cover the importance of addictions in self-discovery, the true place of willpower, the greatest unforeseen barriers of overcoming addictions, why the good reasons don't stop addictions from taking place in your life, and why personal development techniques and rehab often fall short of helping people overcome addiction. You can also view this episode on YouTube from the link in the description. Now, with open ears and an open heart, enjoy this episode. This is the major challenge of overcoming addictions. I don't know who I will be when they're gone. Addiction is one of our most fundamental initiations into self-discovery. And they shouldn't be seen as bad things, but seen as fundamental to our growth and waking up to reality. Because if the reality was that the thoughts that you have are true and reality, then you could never overcome an addiction because the thought would keep it going. But somehow you transcend the thoughts and perceptions that keep that addiction going by discovering who you are beyond them. And that's why I actually love addiction as a teaching platform and to support people with addiction to discover themselves.
For me, I've had a relationship with alcohol where it's manageable, if that makes sense from a social perspective.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it alcoholic, but I would say, and I'll lay it out here, that I'll have a drink most nights, like even if it's one glass of wine or it's two glasses of wine. And for a long time, I've like, why are we doing this? This is Kylie and me. We'll do this.
This is your wife.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it really came to a head in the last few days when we've been looking for the house because we were off financially. And so I took the plunge at 11 o'clock at night to go and look at our financial for the last 3 months. And then the amount of times that BWS or something came up in the last 3 months was like the amount that we were falling short of being comfortable to pay this mortgage. I'm like, Oh, that really hurts. And I've done it every year, right? Around February, right? I'll have 30 days off. And I can do it. Like I can go 30 days, but at about the 20th day, I'll say, I can have one. And then at the 30th day, it's just like back to normal. And the other part to this is I love my health, running and everything. And nearly every time I have a drink, it's like there's a shame part. It's gonna make me get out of shape. I know I'm doing it against my true values of being healthy, being in shape, stuff like that.
Do you feel any consequence, like just in your energy state, like tiredness or how it affects your sleep or any other aspects to it that are impacted?
Yeah. So the other aspects are finding now more and more, because I've been so much more aware of it and cut back. But if I'll wake up with a headache, even if I've only had one drink, and my mind will go. Or if I've had a drink at night, then it sort of rules out self-intelligence or self-recognition.
Like if you did it, what you mean by that is like meditation practices and things like that. Yes. They don't quite match, do they?
They don't quite match.
No. Okay, so for those who out there who are listening to this, you may have had goals, for example, to do, say, 15 minutes of meditation before bed or something like that, right? And you know that it resets you and that there's a sense of calm and there's a sense of this is a good way to enter sleep. It even helps with sleep. That's scientifically known. Starting the day and ending the day in silence is a very, very powerful habit to have in life, right? When there's Another habit, like alcohol, as a good example, they don't energetically align. They don't vibrate on the same frequency. So when you bring the alcohol to the practice, something feels mismatched and the commitment will go to one or the other.
Like, well, the alcohol's come first, so the meditation goes out the window because the habit, it's 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock when we sit down, have a drink. Well, even if it's one glass of wine.
One glass of wine. And how justifiable is one glass of wine? What's one glass of wine? It's one glass of wine, right? It's so harmless in its sense. I think there's people who have dedicated science to proving one glass of wine is healthy, even, for example.
Right? I've said that before. Well, it's good for your heart.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other part to this, and this is significant because it goes into things like, and getting a bit airy-fairy, but like the feeling of abundance or not abundance is every time, and this has been for a number of years though, when I purchase alcohol, there's like an immediate shame feel of doing it, knowing it's not helping my finances, but I'm doing it. So like every time it's a repeating process.
Let's just stop there, okay? Because you brought something up really important here. The purpose fundamentally of self-inquiry and inquiry and trigger inquiry is acceptance. And fundamental acceptance, not acceptance that's based in right and wrong, but acceptance of the fact of what's happening, because the level of acceptance is the vibration of the level of the heart. And the vibration of the level of the heart is the vibration of joy and fulfillment and inspiration and enthusiasm and openness and connection, right? And all of these things, right, that are our highest values, right? That is intrinsic to who we are. That's not, doesn't need or is in a lack state. It's not made up, right? You are in this behavior, this habit, which has no right or wrong basis in it. Let's be clear about this to start with. Alcohol is not wrong.
Yeah.
All that we have is experience and having the consequence of that experience. And then deciding for ourselves what we want out of that. So if alcohol in your experience is robbing you more than it is giving you something, that's a very neutral thing. It has nothing to do with shame or right, because shame will come out of right and wrong. So that's just on the level of alcohol in general. Then you take it a step back and the shame comes from, well, I am experienced being robbed and I keep allowing the robbery to happen. And I'm ashamed that I would let that happen, right? So there's two possible levels of shame. Shame about alcohol itself, which would be some belief system about it being whatever. And then shame about I'm not doing the best for myself. And who can relate?
That's the one.
Right. I mean, how many that's the huge one, right?
Like, I don't hate alcohol. Alcohol's a demon like that. It's
yes.
that underneath it from me,
yes.
Taking that next step, then it's that shame of why am I continuing to do this? Which is a silly question, why, but
in terms of what that why may lead you to is, okay, I'm doing this behavior that's clearly robbing my bank account and also other habits that are super important, far beyond what this is going to offer. When that impulse comes to have a drink, what is happening at that time? What are the thoughts that are occurring that say, it's time to have a drink? What is the feeling state in you? Because everyone has this, right? They get home from work, whatever it is, they're busy days, there's stress going on and everything. And there's this sense of association between pleasure, between reward, between feeling at ease. There's a softening. There's almost like there's a distracting out from the momentum of the day. It's like, I want all that to stop because I want to sit here with my wife and have a conversation or whatever the case is.
Like the reward, like there's the equals, which is the obvious one, relax. it gives, and this is not only wife, but this is friends. It gives this time for commonality and connection, like you said.
So all that happens with alcohol and various other things, alcohol is just one subject, is it gets associated with being necessary for a natural process which is stop work, relax, unwind. This is a critical part of the cycle of the day. But what has now become associated with that is robbing you as well. So it's a poor strategy, right? Now, when it comes to things like meditation, particularly meditation, it seems like more work. It's like I've just been at work doing all day, and now I want to unwind and not work, and now I'm going back to another thing that I'm having to do, which is more work.
Yeah, to a point, I think since being involved with self-recognition, self-intelligence, it's much more part of my life. And I think that is the reason, right, this has come to the point that it must be dropped.
Let's make that really clear. And this is important. And this is why there's a lot of resistance to things like self-intelligence, because wherever anyone is at this given point in time, it's organized in vibration. Every choice, perception, belief, value, all of this equates to a vibration. Now, when you bring in something that is a higher vibration, which is what self-intelligence will most certainly do, you know that what's going to happen then is things that were in that lower vibration are going to start falling away. And can be a conflict with that, because it's like I'm attached to these things. These things are important to me, and yet I have this impulse that's beyond this personal idea of what I think is important. It's a universal impulse to grow beyond this vibration, this container that I'm in, because it is only so fulfilling and it is very limited, right? Particularly when it comes to true freedom and true relaxation and true, deeper levels of that. This is very limited, this place that I'm in right now. So then you start bringing in those practices, and it then starts to make the lower vibrations wobble. So they become obvious to you, like you said, this drinking thing is not serving me anymore. And now I'm in the transitional phase of going deeper into the place that I was going, right? Which was to allow those habits that you've learnt to go deeper, or to kind of sit here in limbo between the two, holding on to one and holding on to the other simultaneously.
That's where it is, and uncomfortable, and it's
Yes.
not serving me.
Yes.
That limbo, holding on. And this is one of those ones you talk about, the work stop the butt. This is the one where I've been able to be involved with self-intelligence and that understanding me more, and still be like still have it, alcohol as functional.
Yes. Functional drug addicts. Yeah.
We won't question that one. We won't question that one. It's going on. And then it's like the universe the other day, however you want to say universe, but with the buying a house, how obvious it was. It's like, oh, that's the slap in the face, but I knew all along anyway. And then all the fears, like, well, like, your mates, like, will I continue to go out with them? Have I been in a pub without a beer ever?
How often are you in a pub?
Oh, no, not very often.
See, this is what the mind does. It creates all these ideas, and it's like not even in reality.
At Gold Coast, though, like, it's just natural. My dad will go get a beer, and like, it's not like, oh no, I don't. I do enjoy having a beer with him. That's the other thing, right? You go and question, okay, it's going to give me more money, it's going to give me better health. I feel like I'd still question that, to allow myself not to attach to that, because life doesn't care if I drink or not. And I might not get more money. Other things might pop in. So I was getting a bit caught on that. Well, do I go and question?
You're complicating it, which is why we have these. This is why we have these sessions. Because of the practicalities of life and where you've come to at this point, it has become obvious to you, maybe just for now, and that's the other thing. There's no time frame on these things. But for now, alcohol is not serving you. Yes or no?
Big yes.
Okay. That big yes is the only thing you need to focus on, okay? So now you've already made your decision. It's already been made in that yes. So now you're not buying alcohol and you're not having that as a habit, because if it's going to stop you from that mortgage and all these practices you want to do and all of the depth and so many other reasons, health and otherwise, you've already come to the conclusion. Now when the habit inserts itself, this is when you inquire. At this point, whenever the impulse comes to drink, that's not in alignment with what that yes was, right? That this is time, it's done, okay? Then the thoughts will come and perceptions will come. Now, what's the difference there? A thought is that voice in your head that says, it's fine. You can start this tomorrow, or you've had a lot of pressure. It'd be better if you did this, or I think there's a possibility of sex tonight. I reckon alcohol's definitely worthwhile tonight. I mean, screw everything else. That's the most important. Blah blah blah. Whatever the thoughts are, is now your inquiry, because those thoughts are not aligned with that yes.
Yeah, that's simple.
Because self-intelligence is moment to moment to moment to moment, not how do I work my life out? You made it complexity because you made inquiry about my life, Dan's life. Self-inquiry is not about Dan's life. Self-inquiry is about truth in every moment. Okay? I have a yes in me around this and it is clear. Okay? Now, thought comes. I inquire. Oh my gosh, that was really straightforward. What would happen in the past? Thought would come. It would be believed. It would just be believed. And then there I am drinking again going, how did I get here? How did I get to this point where I knew a second ago that was not what I wanted to do? And it's like, well, one, you're unconscious to what's going on. And at any point you can become conscious. So you may be halfway through that glass of wine, for example, before you go, oh my gosh, I just remembered, right? I just connected back with what I knew. Now I can just tip the glass out. And the mind will go, oh, but well, you've poured it now. You poured it now. You may as well. And you're like, no, that's not the point. Because I know I'm weaning my way off something. I mean, this has been a long habit. So it will generally be a weaning off that habit process, won't it? So sometimes you'll get halfway through, but before you've already bought the alcohol, for example. There's many steps that have even taken place before it got into your mouth. You got in the car, you found yourself parking and then walking to the BWS or whatever it is.
That's the fear. That's it. That's the one that is getting me the most. Even parking the car, even the trip there, even the bringing it up at home to say I'm going to go buy it. All of that is laced in shame. And then the whole walk, the whole thing is like this shame walk.
Yes.
And even walking in, all of it.
So at any point, even when you're drunk, it can be the point. At any point, the conscious interruption comes that inquires to the thoughts and perceptions that got the action to take place. And right there, as that interruption happens, so does your behavior change with that interruption. So I vividly remember this because, like I said at the start, alcohol was not a one glass a night thing. It was 6 beers a night thing. And it was very impacting on my health. It was just horrible. And it was such a strong impulse. Like it was full-blown addiction, And I knew it had to stop. It wasn't fulfilling my full potential and all those things. And I had to interrupt the process at any given time that I became aware of the process that was taking place. But the mind will say, but how can you interrupt the process that you're already in? If you're in that process, you should justify it and continue with it, because if you interrupt it, you are then saying what your thought was, which was apparently you, is not real. You just then disidentified, because when that voice says, it's time to, have relax, get alcohol, you mistake that voice to be Dan. That all that voice is a habit that sounds like Dan, so to speak. But of course, that you are not the voice, you are the awareness. And then so it's so challenging to interrupt it, because you'll be like, who would I be if I didn't listen to this voice? That is actually the biggest challenge in all of this. Not the alcohol. It is secondary or way down the line.
Yeah, it's the straight immediate, well, will I be bored? Will I be boring?
When someone comes to me that says, I want to be out of the drama and suffering in my life, and people will say this very genuinely, and even put down a lot of money to represent that genuine, desire. What stops that process is the fear of being bored. Because what point would there be in watching a drama, TV series if there was no drama in it? Everybody's life has become a drama TV series. Now, they're suffering the drama, but going, well, what's the alternative? I've either got the drama that I'm suffering, or I'm bored and suffering. So which one am I going to do? Bored suffering, drama suffering? And it's like, you don't know who you are. Because at the place that you are taken to is self-recognition, and for people who don't know what that is, self-intelligence offers meditation practices that are called self-recognition practices. So it's a direct pointing to who you are, rather than just focusing on things for meditation purposes. It's a direct experience of who you are. Now, are you bored?
Absolutely not.
There's no possibility of being bored. It just doesn't exist, does it? It just doesn't exist, right? If you would like to download a free beginner self-recognition guided meditation audio to start your journey of healing and freeing yourself from the inside out, see the link in the description or go to selfintelligence.com. So when the voice of boredom comes, your intelligence will say, well, that's a very compelling argument. However, my experience knows it's not true. And further to that, Dan, when you are not in the fear of being bored and in the drama of bad habits, you are exceptionally creative and spontaneous. So you will do things with your wife, for example, that wouldn't have been available before. You will take up new behaviors. You'll have new entry points for connection that are so much deeper and so much more meaningful and so much more fun, because they don't have the weight of fear in them. People are not satisfied at all with the distractions and addictions that they've employed in their lives to make up for the fear of being bored. But it's like, but I don't know anything else. And not only do I not know anything else, I don't know who I would be if I wasn't a slave to all of those things. What would Dan be doing if he wasn't driving his car down to the BWS? Like, what would be happening instead of that? Am I just sitting in my room looking at the wall? At least this addiction informs my actions. At least I know what I will be doing, you see? This is the major challenge of overcoming addictions. I don't know who I will be when they're gone. It doesn't matter then how much someone weighs up all the pros and cons of the addiction, right? It doesn't matter. Do you know how many people go to rehabilitation centers, okay, and spend $30,000 odd and things like this and come out time and time and time again a drug addict? Because rarely ever are they instructed to discover who they are as the primary focus of the rehabilitation. The idea is if you just remove the drug or whatever the thing is, you'll sober up and you'll be sweet. And it's like, no, you will not be sweet.
As I was listening to this thing last night, it was actually, I forget his name, it doesn't matter. And he mentioned from an alcoholic perspective, it's really useful, right, to get a client to say, what will you lose if you continue to drink? And they say, I'm going to lose my career. I'm going to lose my family. And then they're like, okay, so now they've got this real fear of what they're going to lose. That's what we'll keep. And then they can run away from that real fear.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, there's used to getting that real fear in there. But then I was like, hang on. But from a self-intelligence point of view, if you are now have this thing that you're completely fearful of, then there's going to be a lot of compensations about that. There's going to be lying if you go and do it. There's also going to be real shame if you break that versus, I'm aware that I'm fearful. So now you're not relying on external circumstances and you're aware of it. And if you did fall off the wagon, there's the opportunity to go, well, that's okay.
Self-intelligence is to move out of fear as a motivation, because you cannot solve a problem at the same level it was created. What is the addiction to alcohol coming from is already from the fear state. Then it's like, so what we're going to do then is employ a whole range of other fears that seem to be more positive in order to combat the original fears. And it doesn't work. If you make the decision from fear, I won't get the house, I won't get the this, all you do is transfer that addiction into another addiction. You go, I'm not drinking alcohol anymore, but my ego's worked out an even more clever and more justifiable method of an addiction.
So play that out. So I'll do the example would be, I'm not drinking alcohol, but I'm getting the money to get the house.
Yes. Now the house becomes the possible replacement of true for freedom, fulfillment, happiness, joy. The house becomes the addiction. It's then added to your sense of self. You can be a clean freak addict, for example, but it's more justified than an alcohol addict. But it's exactly the same thing. And then you'll impose it onto others like it's a reality as well. So coming to that place of, I know what's here. Okay, what stops that knowing from taking place? Oh, there's the thought. I'm with them as they come. And as they come, I take them through inquiry. Boom, boom, off they go, right? I'm now left with a beingness I'm not familiar with. And I'm now just witnessing what enters the space that wasn't there before. And it will be what you would describe as wholesome. It will be what you would describe as integral, as in alignment. This is the word that you would use. Now, what could that look like? It may anything. When I use words like that, the problem is the ego throws up all these delusional things as to what that means. And only you can know what an addiction is for you. Because someone might say, you're doing this other thing now. Oh, that's just another addiction. And you check in with yourself and you're like, no, this is clear for me. That's totally fine. But from the outside, it may look superficial. It may look like oh my gosh, why would you spend your time doing that? Like, that's really like so not spiritual or whatever the case. It's like, wait up, that's just egoic spiritual nonsense coming out now, right? No one can for anybody else determine what an addiction is, what is a problem in your life, what you should or shouldn't be doing. Nothing. Only you can go, Dan goes, because I didn't say it to you, you said it. This alcohol situation, this is not right now. And I like to say right now, Dan, because you don't know what will come. The mind will make things permanent, and that will be very difficult to deal with. You just know this is true right now, you see? You address this right now, as it is right now, and just let it flow as it flows naturally. Very challenging subject, addiction, but addiction, because I'm calling it, do you know I'm calling it addiction? Because addiction is the definition of something you cannot stop even when you want to. It's like, can you just not do that right now from here? Boom, done. And you're like, well, no, I find myself possessed. I find myself somehow doing it, even though I didn't want to do it. Like that.
Even not doesn't have to be alcoholic. It's still a behavior that is repeated and repeated.
Anything. The greatest addiction we have is to our thoughts.
Can I play out that
Let's do
moment? You know, I want to stop drinking is my situation. Easy thoughts that come into play. Particularly straight away, I'll get a vision of work and social. How does that work? Will it work? Conceptually, so there's a thought I want to inquire on.
So that's a what if. So in the trigger log, the words we're looking for are should, shouldn't, what if, meaning, and a limiting belief.
What if I lose friends? I need it to socialize, or I need it to be. Yeah, I don't actually believe I need it to be interesting. So that's actually, I'm making that up. That doesn't get me there, but it's more that it's in people's business what people are thinking, me not drinking.
Yes.
Do I have the willpower to continue not drinking?
Yes.
Then, so I play the other side, which is where I want to go is, well, what is, if I do it, I'll save money. Okay. If I do it, I'll save money. So my question there, this is where I was getting a bit derailed, is it questioning that thought as well, so I don't get addicted to that. If I do it, I will have heaps of money.
Your question to me is about something that's not even happening. So what is really happening right now? What is that about?
Well, it's about the feeling of shame that I get each time, the knowing that it's not serving me. But then the fear that it's just me saying it again and not following through. It's the fear of having to really reconfigure certain friends.
So wait, you went to deeper parts just now, which is, if I don't follow through, what does that mean?
Oh, it means heaps of things. If I don't follow through, we won't get the house. It means we'll be in the same cycle we've been in. It means, will I be able to ever do it if I don't follow through this time?
Yes. So what does it mean about you?
Like failure. Destined to always drink. Destined to not be the person who understands their funds. Not be the person that the funds is in their cash. Destined the person to always turn a blind eye to those core things that keep me moving.
Okay, but all of those things amount to what? If you're not successful with this, how are you going to feel? Let's put it in a simple way. Are you going to feel good or feel like shit?
I'm going to feel stuck. I'm going to feel shit.
Okay, so that's the fear. The fear is, I'm going to feel like shit. Right, that's all the fear is. So you take the feeling of, you go, okay, let me right now sit in the feeling of feeling like shit that I've failed. Okay. Okay, so I bought the alcohol. Not only did I buy it, I went home and I even drank more than I usually would, right? And this often happens, okay? Now, notice the regret inside around this and just that feeling of, oh, I'm just such a useless, hopeless case. Now, you take that to the witness, okay? And you witness the shape that feeling like shit has taken residency in you right now. Now, in the place of witnessing that, do you feel like shit?
No, because it's separate from me.
So the only thing that feels like shit is the person you believe yourself to be, Dan, the ego state, who is void of the witness of the state that it's taken. But the second you go, I'm going to be its witness, even if I screw this up, I'm going to be its witness. All I'm required to do is be the witness, okay? Then you've taken all the pressure out of failing, right? You've taken all the pressure out of ruining Dan's life and being, uncontrollable and all of those fears. And you go, you know what? No matter what happens, I will be its witness. As with the thoughts that were coming up too, I'm being their witness as well. Whether you get to the point of being that witness when you're jumping in your car to go buy alcohol, or the next day after you've been drunk, wherever that plays, right? You can be its witness, because guess what? When you're drunk and hungover and have spent a bunch of money, guess what's going to be there? Thoughts. There's just going to be thoughts saying, you loser, you da, 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 da. And you're going, there's going to be the witness, right? And all you're surrendering to and your willingness, we're talking about willpower, okay? The willpower is on the wrong thing. Willpower is not there to overcome the addiction. Willpower is there to be the witness of that process. And when you are willing to be the witness of that process, the addiction just dissolves, because it has no legs as the witness. It only has legs as the false self that you have become, which is the thoughts in your mind. Because not drinking is so freaking natural, Dan. It's such an obvious thing to do. It's such an easy thing to do. You just don't do it. It's so simple, right? But you have pressurized, you have brought the ego into the intention of overcoming alcohol, and then created more suffering out of it. And this is why the personal development world, personal development would say, use all these fears to combat that. This is not personal development, Dan. This is personal transformation. Because when you become the witness of the entire process and not reject any of it, you have transformed, or you have transcended the false notion of yourself, which was the thoughts you were having about it, which you identified as you.
And this is where the true step-by-step comes in. So if I go to work and there is a lunch at a pub, conscious enough to be the witness when that thought comes in, I can't do this without. And in that moment,
boom. And exactly. But if you have shame, you will not see that thought. If you have ego in this, if you have only, I'm successful if I do it this way, if if I've done it the way that I thought in my mind, then anything that contradicts that, you'll have to reject it. And now you're in denial, and now you're drinking.
Yeah, it's a cycle.
All right. But if you can accept 100% wherever you are at in that process, guess what happens? Death. It ends. Boom. And you know what? That's the most terrifying thing. Because I'm giving you the path to actually end it. Where the personal development concept is not giving you the path to end it. It's giving you the path to transform one addiction to another addiction. It's literally putting shit. You discovered there was shit in one room and someone said to you, go put that shit in another room and you won't know it's there. And it's like, yeah, but I just transformed it. I just transferred it over. It didn't remove it. It didn't excavate it out, you see.
It's what I started doing I was needing to path it all out with my environment. Moment to moment, what's my thought now?
What you just said, and I'll leave it with this, what you just discovered is you tried to make self-intelligence serve Dan's life, the ego. But self-intelligence is only to serve who you are, which is beyond the ego, right? So the second that you try to make this work for your ego, just know this is fine. This will happen too, of course. Okay. You experience complexity. It'll just become difficult to work out. And you're like, you just right then just go, I know what I'm in. I'm still maybe a little bit confused, but I know what I'm in. That is what I'm trying to achieve. Is the egoic state is trying to use this transcendent quality for its purpose, and they don't marry up. You see?
But that's my moment to moment. But
yes.
I'm being triggered by the trigger, but that's my moment. So now look at that moment.
Yep, you're just there. You're always there. You're always there. Exactly. Perfect, Dan. Thank you so much for that. That's massive. And I think there's a lot of people that are going to get some really unusual insight about the way to transcend these addictions, and to understand that addiction is one of our most fundamental initiations into self-discovery. And they shouldn't be seen as bad things, but seen as fundamental to our growth and waking up to reality. Because if the reality was that the thoughts that you have are true and reality, then you could never overcome an addiction, because the thought would keep it going. But somehow you transcend the thoughts and perceptions that keep that addiction going by discovering who you are beyond them. And that's why I actually love addiction as a teaching platform, and to support people with addiction to discover themselves. Thank you for listening to this episode. If you got value out of this, please share it so that other people can benefit also. If you are fed up with the drama, overwhelm, or suffering going on in your life, and you would like expert guidance and support tailored to your situation, come and be a guest on the Self-Intelligence podcast. Don't go another day confused how to address the challenges you are facing. If you want to be a guest, go to the link in the description below. And for more information about self-intelligence, including joining my next wake-up experience, or detailed information about my 12-week self-intelligence course, go to selfintelligence.com.